recognizing and preventing phishing email attacks. We look at the identify who sent it to us, right? Do we know them? Is it expected? Are they requesting info they wouldn't normally request? And does it have a link? All of those things are warnings, right? Save that email, do not discard it. Like I said before, save it so that we still have the forensics data that's in the original email because you saved it. And by the way, identify it when you send it as suspicious, right? Because if you forward something directly and there's a link there, and the IT guy says, oh, this is from Bob, I trust Bob, and he clicks the link. That's bad. That happens all the time. Report it to the IT security team or whomever in your team is that person to make sure that we're trying to eliminate it, they're aware of it, and don't assume that no one clicked it. Somebody would have clicked it. Detecting spear phishing emails. If an email comes from someone you normally correspond, which contains unusual things, why are they asking that question, or does it sound like them? Those things are really important. Don't link, don't click links, don't download files, don't open files just from somebody without verifying that it is something that was intentional. Pay attention to slightly altered web addresses. You got to hover over it and look at it, right? A 0 instead of an O is a big difference, and that's kind of what Alex was talking about earlier. It's very effective. Be wary of panic messages. If it says urgent, I must do it in 24 hours. What? No, I'm going to ask IT. I'm going to find out, is that really necessary? And any attachment you have to be cautious of. I would never download anything from them specifically. It's just like if somebody calls me and asks me my social security number. Like, no, I'm going to call you at the bank on the number that I trust and hope that nobody's gotten the man in the middle attack there. The 3-second rule applies pretty much to everything in life. But if you apply it to this, think 3 seconds before you click that link. Really important, really good. Here's an example of a bad one. If you look here, you can see that this was really about PayPal service, but that's not a PayPal email address. And when we look at what is it? Well, it's an invoice for PayPal and something I didn't do, and it's a PDF, which doesn't make it safe. And in this case, they're asking you to make a payment, and it came from, this one was truthful. It tells you it comes from Venezuela. Did you order anything from Venezuela? No. And in this case, you can see you will find message and invoice. In this case, it's the grammar is not quite right? So this is an older school one. And when we look at it's a new receipt, you must do this. Well, that doesn't match what the message said, right? So really looking into it's important. This one is also, look at the USPS.ups.shipments.com. It's not actually USPS, right? That's not how they label it. So understand it's there. They're going to give you a parcel number, and here's a link. If you hover over the link, you can see that it is not where it intended to be. IBMM.my login.api.getend.php is not U.S. Postal Service, right? So really understanding it there is really what makes sense. All right, then let's also assume that people are going to click the link. They're going to do it, right? That 0.01%, that's still a great reduction of risk, but it's still 0.1 times, right? So out of 1,000, that's 1. Yeah. Was it 100? It's 100 is one, yeah. Anyway, report any received emails that seem suspicious, absolutely. And create a culture where they can come and tell you. This is really important. I can't stress that enough. We have been in organizations who were saved because somebody came up to us in tears and said, this is all my fault, I clicked the link. Turns out that they were not the fault, but it did give us data that we needed in part of the forensic analysis. So it really helped us get there. Triage, disconnect your devices from the internet. Do not necessarily turn them off. And a lot of this can now be performed through the endpoint protection systems, right? We can isolate and contain devices remotely. Change the details, right? So phishing emails are used to steal personal information and passwords, etc. You don't have to use your usual. You can change things up. To Alex's point, that question doesn't actually have to take a verbal answer. It can be a code. It can be something that is protected. And that really helps with social engineering as well. Pay attention to your digital footprint, your resumes, the information you give out on all of those things. When you write down your birth date for, I don't know, a social media service, do you have to tell them the truth? Can you be off by years and days? And that's okay. You can still have a birthday, just not your real one, right? It's all information that we don't want to give up. or have them access. And so when we look in the phishing playbook, determine members and roles of the cyber incident response team. Define the escalation path. Who do we call? Where do we send it? Ensure logging levels for emails components so we can see who got into your account from where. That kind of stuff is really important. And then make sure that we're storing those emails in a secure location. We identify who's there, and then we have the example of the evidence, determine the initial method, and interview impacted users so that we can make sure this doesn't happen again and help others because we learn more about it. Immediately reset passwords. That's always a given. That's always a good first step. Revoke authentication tokens for victim accounts, right? They can't send email anymore. Well, don't delete their account, isolate it, contain it, so you can use all of the forensics there. Block any indicators of compromise, and then go into eradication recovery. That is how we should always do it. And once you write down that plan, you also have to test it. Because if you're not testing your plan, how do you know it's going to work? Well, you don't, and it won't, right? When you need it most. And then when we talk about preventing a cyber attack, this is really good when we're talking about spear phishing and any kind of phishing, to be honest, or smishing or phishing. Education and training, number one. Understanding the cybersecurity methods that we have in place to help people do the right thing. Monitoring for everything is always a recommendation, and not just because we're a monitoring company. This is something that we have to do, so says NIST. So step up our game, and then put in the policies and procedures to help our folks remember to do it right. It's not that they're going to follow every policy and procedure we give them, but it does help curb bad behaviors, right? That's really the goal here, to take it